Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining me for just a few minutes. I'd like to talk with you about this all-church study that we're embarking on the subject of racism. I know everyone has been watching the news, and it's likely that you're maybe asking yourself, what's going on here? Why are we having this conversation in 2020? Or maybe you're confused. Maybe you're angry, but the time has come for us as Christians and as a church family to join this conversation that our nation is having about racism. We have spent the last several weeks looking at resources and trying to figure out the best way for us to journey together as a church family. So we have decided that we will take this journey together either by reading a book or listening to a podcast. And I'd like to spend a little bit of time giving you some more information about these resources. And I'd like to start with the book. The book that we've chosen is titled 12 Lies That Hold America Captive. The book is written by Jonathan Walton, and he works for InterVarsity in the New York City area. Jonathan is Black. He was born here in the United States, and he has spent a whole bunch of years working with young people as well as living his own life as a Black man in America. What he does in this book is he helps us to understand that there is this thing called white American folk religion, WAFER for short. And it includes some of the very typical things that we think about when we think about America. For instance, all men are created equal. We are a Christian nation. We are the home of the free. These are ideas that are so much a part of us as Americans who live here that we take them for granted, and we don't often examine what they mean. Jonathan, in his book, takes a look at this. He looks at each of these ideas, and he explains through his own personal experience why, for a Black person, these ideas are lies. And he takes another look, not only through his own personal experience as a Black man, he takes the lens of Christianity and looks at these ideas and starts to examine, are they in sync with what our Christian ethos should be? Are they idols, perhaps? I guarantee you that if you take a look and read this book, if you join us, Jonathan Walton will challenge you. And he will challenge you in a good way. I can't tell you how many things I learned just listening to his perspective and letting him tell me his story and his experience in America. The second resource that we have chosen to help us through this journey is a podcast. And it's put together by a group called Seen on Radio. And it's called Seeing White. Most of us in this congregation are white. And this podcast, there are 14 installments to the podcast, each of them somewhere around 35 to 40 minutes. They spend a lot of time going through the history. How did we as humans define race to start with? How is race defined, or how was it defined in America? What are some of the policies that have made being Black in America harder than being white? And they tell stories of some of the history that I can guarantee you have not heard about. Did you know there was a racial cleansing in Corbin, Kentucky? Most of us have heard about Tulsa. But did you know that there was a very bad incident with Native Americans in Mankato, Minnesota? So these podcasters go through and help educate us about what it's like to be white and privileged in America. The main podcaster is a guy named John Biewen. He was born in Minnesota. His counterpart, Chenjai Kumanyika, is a professor at Rutgers, and he is a black man. The two men are friends. And through the series in this podcast, they talk about these things as two friends who have a very different experience. And the podcasters also draw on experts from a variety of organizations and disciplines to help us understand how we have arrived where we are today. So, those two resources are what we have decided to use to take this journey together. I implore you, I ask you, I beg you to take a look at both of them and decide whether or not you'd like to read, to educate, and to listen to other voices, or whether you'd like to do the podcast. If you'd like to make this journey on your own, that's fine, and we encourage that. Each of these, the podcast and the book, have resources at the end of each chapter that will help you in thinking through how you've been challenged in that particular way. But if you'd like to take this journey with a small group, we have dedicated session 3 to folks who would like to take this journey alongside others. So small groups, session 3, will begin the week of July 19th. And it will go through the week of September 6th. So what I'd ask you to do, if you'd like to journey with some other parishioners, to go on the website, fhpc.org, and go to the small groups page and decide whether or not you'd like to read your way through this or listen your way through this. You can also, if you want to just sample what the book is like or what the podcast is like, there are buttons on that page that will allow you to listen to the introductory session of the podcast or to read the vast majority of one of the chapters from the book to kind of help you decide what you'd like to do. So again, whether you decide to do this journey with a small group or whether you decide to do this at your own pace over the next 8 to 10 weeks, I encourage you, please join us in this journey. This is a really important conversation for us to have as a church family. Please journey along with us. Thanks for listening.